I started writing the sequel to my novel that I wrote back in 2017 called Everything Under the Sun. I have started working on that again, and I've also started working on an audio version for that, for the first book, Everything Under the Sun. And I'm really excited, looking forward to that, because I have some ideas that I wanted to implement that I came up with a long time ago when I was writing a young adult fantasy series. And I really enjoyed doing the audio because I got to add sound effects and background noise, background effects to the audio, and it just sounded so real. And I just felt like I was in production or something, audio production. And I love doing that kind of stuff. So I'm gonna do that with the audio version of Everything Under the Sun. And I'm also editing it again. I'm omitting some words that I used in the book, like GD, even though, a lot of people do that in real life. I just don't want to put GD in my novels anymore, or someone using the name Jesus Christ when they're cussing, like, oh jeez, I'm gonna take that out, replace it with something else. I'm not gonna make any major changes or anything like that, just a couple edits, and because it was already a Christian themed novel anyway. It's not a Christian book, it's a secular book for sure. There's a lot of sin, and it's not a Christian book. It's definitely not clean literature. There is a lot of dark content in Everything Under the Sun, including sexual assault, well, there's not cannibalism, but there's talk of people who are cannibals. It sounds like a really dark, terrible novel, a terrible story, or like a horror story even, but no, it's not a horror story. It's a love story, but it does have a lot of dark, sinful content in it, and so I can't call it a Christian book, and I would never alter it by taking all of that stuff out, because then it would completely ruin the story. So I would never do anything like that. But I am in that process right now, just re-editing, doing some touch-ups in it, and then I'm going to work on the audio version for that. And there is an audio version up now for the book, but it's just AI generated, and it's not very good, so I'm going to redo that. But also at the same time, I'm also working on the sequel, Winds of the Iron Feather. So I've really been inspired and motivated to write that book and to work on this series, and I just love it so much. And I plan to upload each chapter on my Substack page, along with the audio version of each chapter. So I'm going to have the text and the audio version for Everything Under the Sun uploaded there, and so people can check it out and see if you like it. I love it so much. I used to be asked this question, what is the favorite book I ever wrote? And I used to say Dirty Eden, but now, after writing Everything Under the Sun, that's the one book I have not been able to get out of my head. The one story, the characters, I just love the story so much, and it means so much to me that I just want more people to experience it. And no one can experience it like I did, but at least, I want people to read it and see why I love it so much. So that's what I'm working on. And yeah, I'm just happy to be writing again, and I just love writing so much. I prayed that God would give me motivation and inspiration to write something. I told him, whatever you want me to write, give me a sign, tell me what you want me to do. And the next day, I got this inspiration to continue that story again. I've been kind of doing it off and on for a little while, but this time the motivation, the inspiration just has hit me full force. So I feel like that's a sign, even though it's not a Christian book or a Christian series, it's a Christian themed. There's definitely elements of Christianity in there. The main character, she does believe in God, but like a lot of books, it's in movies, it doesn't focus heavily on Christ. It's not about Christ. But it has a Christ aspect, and I just think that's important for anything to be called Christian themed. But it's definitely not Christian literature. So, like I said, it's not clean. I wouldn't recommend it to anyone who only wants to read clean literature. So you definitely won't get that from this book. It's more realistic in terms of how life really is and how we struggle with sin and evil and darkness in the world, but there are redemptive qualities. And like I said, there is also a Christ aspect, the Christianity. So it falls into that category where if you're a Christian, you can read it, but don't expect it to be clean, because it's reality. And I think more people need that in literature and in fiction of all kinds, movies, whatever. People want to see the real dark, gritty reality of life and how people overcame that and found redemption and found Christ. And just, it's kind of hard to relate to something that is sugar-coated or all of the reality is taken out. And that includes even the curse words and really terrible situations. It's not realistic. I've talked about this in a couple of episodes in the past, and I still stand by it today. I mean, I am totally for strict Christian fiction and nonfiction, where, you know, there's not sex, there's not curse words, there's not all of these dark things that go on in life. But I am definitely also for the realistic fiction, where, you know, we don't try to cover up what really happens in life, because most people can relate to the realistic fiction. When people try to read a book or watch a movie that's not realistic, where the cuss words are taken out, the real life scenarios are taken out, all of the really bad stuff is taken out, that it's like I said, it's sugar coated, and it's just hard to relate to something like that. It's hard to imagine yourself in that situation. It's hard to overcome your own sin and adversity if you can't relate to a story, and you just look at it and people think it's cheesy. It's like, wow, that's the cheesiest thing I've ever seen. And, you know, there is a lot of Christian fiction movies and such, and that are just really bad. I hate to say that, but they really are. And if you want people to understand Christianity more, the ones that don't want to read the Bible yet, or I say yet because it's very important that you read the Bible, but the ones that are just not interested in that, they're not want to get that deep in it yet, they're not going to find it by going and watching, you know, a cheesy Christian movie or reading a sugar-coated Christian novel that doesn't have any of the aspects of life in which a person experiences. So yeah, I can go on and on about this all day, and I probably will again at some other point in another novel, but I mean in another episode. But of course, it's always important to have the clean Christian fiction too. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it, because we need that as well. Because for people who are already Christians and they don't want to read stuff with sex or with cursing and all of the other stuff that kind of makes a book not Christian, that, you know, we need literature for people like that who don't want all that crap, which it is crap, you know, unfortunately, but it's real. That's the problem. It's dark and it's terrible, but it's real life. And a lot of people look for that. They want a connection. And yeah, so that's what mostly my books are. The ones I've already written, like The Waltz of Devil's Creek and Everything Under the Sun, and The Way Winds of the Iron Feather will be, which is the sequel to Everything Under the Sun. It's dark, it's gritty, it's real life, but it's Christian themed, for sure. And one movie I can name off the top of my head that is dark and gritty, but is Christian to me, Christian themed, is The Book of Eli. So, you know, everybody can watch that. It doesn't matter whether you're Christian or atheist or whatever your religious affiliation is. Everybody can watch a movie like The Book of Eli. And I think that's important because you want to draw people in who are not Christians. And when you see something like The Book of Eli, it touches you. And people who are not Christian and do want anything to do with religion or Christianity can watch that movie and not be turned off by it. So I just think there needs to be more material out there like that. And that's what I aim to do with my fiction. Not all of it. I also want to write some wholesome, clean Christian fiction as well. I've already got a few ideas planned for that. I'll talk about that pretty soon. But so my husband's coming out of the store now with probably just bananas. No, he's got 2 bags. He always ends up with more than he went in there for. So